Welcome to the CDO Magazine interview series. I'm Amy Jones with EY. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with Paula Osborn, Deputy Chief AI and Data Officer at the Department of State. Thanks for joining us today, Paula.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
Change management can be the difference between, whether the technology really takes hold and how successful these efforts could be. Could you share some examples of how you're approaching change management at Department of State to ensure the successful adoption of AI?
Yes, I love this question because I think the change management is key. And I think a lot of people are so focused on the technology. And then, like, once they get the technology, then they move on to the next technology and, like, are not very focused on change management, which is my favorite part of all of this because it's so difficult. Learning from failures of mine in the past, we are tackling change management from like top down, bottom up, side to side, really all around. So from top down, the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, is really involved in this. He has a modernization agenda. A couple of months ago, we had a fireside chat where my boss, the chief data and AI officer, sat down with him, and he talked. They both talked through priorities on generative AI and AI in general. And this is the first time in decades and decades that a Secretary of State has talked about sort of more of like a tech management issue and not a foreign affairs issue. So that top-down messaging, and our deputy secretaries do the same. Leadership is really engaged in this, and they want to know. They're like, just tell us what to do. Tell us what to do. So we put it in their messages, emails that go out to the department. Really work with them on how they can message that top down that they really want people leveraging these technologies. Then from the bottom up, identifying data champions. So at State, we have a Teams channel that's AI Innovators. It has like thousands and thousands of State Department employees on it. And we don't run it or anything. We answer, if there's any direct questions on it, but it's really like staff level being able to talk about, what they're working on, what their questions on, what's worked well for them, and so forth. But we monitor that to sort of like see, what people are up to, and also promote it to get more people to join. Working on quick wins. So we have at the Center for Analytics a pretty big analytics team of data scientists that help in the development of data analytic and AI projects in priority areas of the administration. So those are higher visibility as well. So trying to use people as well as developing tools that people really want is how we're getting people continue to be excited, but also open to integrating data and AI into their work, which is not an easy feat anywhere, but I would say especially at the State Department, which attracts humanities majors that are really good at writing and really good at speaking and aren't necessarily experts at Excel or really inclined in math or sciences or anything like that. So I'd say there had been a lot of hesitancy around this, and people are getting more and more on board, which is awesome.
Really inspiring to hear about the community that you're building here. And I know you alluded to this earlier, but Department of State was the first federal agency to use generative AI on sensitive data. Can you walk us through what motivated that decision and how you manage the risks?
Absolutely. So when ChatGPT came out, everybody was like, how do we leverage this? How can we use this? And there was different thinking at the top of leadership. Some of it was like, this is too risky. We need to tell people not to use it. And then another side that was like, people are going to use it no matter what. So we really need to lean in and figure out how to create policies and guardrails so they use it correctly, since they're going to be using it anyway. So we is taking sort of like a step back. So on our enterprise data strategy, the way that we are implementing it is through what we call data campaigns. So rather than doing specific work just around like data management, data governance, data culture, data analytics, we do data campaigns, which like highest level at State Department votes on. We do 2 every 6 months around administration priority areas such as climate or multilateralism, like work in the United Nations. And one that we had around the time that ChatGPT came out was around public diplomacy, which just so happens to be kind of the perfect type of work for ChatGPT. So, for example, some of the work that takes up a ton of time overseas is media monitoring and summarization. So, our local staff spend a ton of time. I mean, some of them, their whole days are spent, sifting through different news sources, finding out what's interesting to us as diplomats in that particular country, and then translating those into English and sending them around every day. That can be done like, through ChatGPT in seconds, right? As well as some other things around translation and that type of media work, summarization, and so forth. So with that campaign really helped people realize like, whoa, this is applicable to our work and this can save us a ton of time. What more can we do with this? And we were always really clear on only unclassified data can go into ChatGPT. And a lot of them were like, well, this would be really useful if we could put sensitive data into it. And so we were like, all right, we'll look into it. And we were able to procure a platform faster than anticipated. Leadership of the Center for Analytics were really smart about this. And yeah, we were able to get it, which people have been like extraordinarily excited about. It's sort of like, again, like I feel like ChatGPT coming out like really elevated the work that we do in analytics and AI. And now having what we call, again, state chat, our internal and our sensitive system has like sort of like taken us a whole step up with excitement and engagement around this.
Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the ways within state chat that you're ensuring the safety and security of the sensitive data kind of differentially from some of the publicly available tools?
Yeah. So again, I'd say like, so for ChatGPT, when it was out, we were definitely worried about people using it and putting sensitive information in. But then we were like, okay, well, there's Google search. Like anyone could put sensitive information into Google search. And so we just use that example, like don't put anything into ChatGPT that you wouldn't put into Google search. And we have internal State Department policy that says what is unclass, what is sensitive but unclassified, like that has our different levels of sensitivity and definitions. And so now that it's on our sensitive system, but not our higher level classification, people are more familiar because we work, a lot of the department works in this particular environment of what kind of information can go into that. But again, we tell people to look at our internal policy to make sure it is our sensitive but unclassified information that goes into it. But because it's within our system, like it, all of the inputs and outputs are ours. We see it, we monitor it, and all of that. So we do have people who routinely monitor it, and if there's anything to that looks maybe not responsible put into it, it's flagged, but I've actually not heard of that happening at all.
I'm curious. I'm assuming that the demand for these types of systems are coming in the classified environment, as you mentioned, sort of that
Yeah.
next step. So, what challenges does this present, and how is Department of State preparing for that?
Yeah, we're Already working on it. It's on our FY25 roadmap. So by the end of the fiscal, potentially calendar, hopefully fiscal year, we'll have it on our classified systems. The biggest thing, again, is security. So I don't want to say even more because we are already working so incredibly closely with diplomatic technology and diplomatic security, but this is like another level. So it's really that the security controls, but it can be done and it will be in the next year.
All right. Thanks, Paula Osborn, for joining me today. Please visit cdomagazine.tech for additional interviews.